Good morning, everybody, and welcome. We're here on the Walking Through the Bible podcast. This is a different entrance than y'all are usually used to. For this third podcast, or for this third episode, I was gonna try something new. More just me, not this radio voice. And it's just me on here. We're gonna talk about some news. I have a song I want to tell y'all about, and just some stuff for in the future. Before we actually get into our episode today. So how are y'all doing? We're here, episode 3. Wow. I tell y'all, I cannot believe that. I cannot believe of how much people actually were wowed by this. It was crazy to me that people actually were down. I never had envisioned in my life that y'all would actually give it so much love. And it means so much to me that y'all did so much. Sorry guys, I'm adding some stuff to my script. But y'all loved it so much. When I checked it earlier, we were at like 50 views on YouTube. And I know that doesn't sound like a lot to y'all, but as me, myself, it does. Because this is the first ever episode I've ever posted. It was yesterday. Because I'm filming this like really early. Actually, I filmed it on the last day of test here at the high school where I go to. Hope all of y'all had some great test results. Hope all of y'all did good. And if you didn't, that's okay. But this is the song I wanted y'all to listen to one day. It's called Jesus All Alone by Franny Cash. And I can't play it because I will get monetized. But listen to this. All smoke and no flame. And each waking hour, the lies just got louder. Till a whisper cut through, I knew it was you. Before I knew your name, oh, I know. Somebody saved this long gone lost cause. When I barely was breathing, he gave me a song. And I think that I've known it since when I was young. It was Jesus. Jesus all alone. That is so. I heard that in person. It's like I said, it's Jesus All Alone by Franny Cash. Would love if y'all would give that a listen because I heard her in person at Brandon Lake concert, and it spoke to me so much. So I wanted y'all to hear it. Well, I guess let's get started. Today is kind of a bizarre topic. I want to tell y'all about it. I'm gonna give y'all the story on how we got to this topic. So last year at one of my church camps, one of my friends, I don't know if she wants me to say her name, so I'm not going to, but she told me this. We were talking about relationship advice. It was me, my friend, another friend, and her. 4 of us. 3 boys and her. Whatever. But she told us, she said, don't settle for a rock when you deserve a unicorn. Honestly, I laughed at it. I was like, okay, so I don't need to settle for no rocks when I deserve a unicorn. Well, the other night I was thinking about it.
This audio was created with async.com.
Well, the other night I was thinking about it. That topic right there does not just apply to, our life. It does not just apply to relationships. It applies to faith. It applies to what we choose and chase every single day. And I actually called her and I said, hey, are you good if I use this in a podcast? And she said, well, Thomas, you can't put relationship advice into a podcast about God. And I said, well, listen, let me explain it to you. What if the world is the rock and God is the unicorn? We settle for the world so many times in life. When we deserve God, when we can go for God, we deserve the unicorn. We don't need to settle for a rock when we deserve a unicorn. Because if we're being honest, like I said, we settle for rocks all the time. We settle for temporary happiness. We settle for fitting in. We settle for approval from people. We settle for habits that slowly pull us away from God. We settle for things that look good in the moment, but leave us empty afterward. You know, that is so true. We do. We settle all the time for these things that we don't need to. You know, James 1:17 says, every good and perfect gift is from above. So anything that pulls you away from God, it might feel good for a moment, but it's not the best thing for you. You know, that vape, we hit it once. It may feel like the best thing in the world, but it's going to tear you down in the long run. And the scary thing is, rocks are the easiest to find. Everybody has one. The world constantly throws rocks at us. Social media tells us popularity matters most. Culture tells us to do whatever feels right. People tell us to fit in instead of stand out. And after a while, it becomes normal to settle. But just because something is common doesn't mean it's valuable. Matthew 7:13 and 14 says, Enter through the narrow gate. The road that leads to life is narrow, and few find it. That verse is powerful because it reminds us most people are going to go the easy direction. Most people chase what's temporary. Most people settle for rocks. But God was never supposed to look like everybody else. Real faith stands out. Matthew 6:19 through 21 says, Do not store up for yourselves on treasures on earth, but store up treasures in heaven. Do not store up for yourselves treasures on earth. Store up treasures in heaven. Because whatever you chase reveals what you trust. And honestly, I think one reason people struggle so much today is because they keep trying to fill spiritual emptiness with worldly things. People try to fill emptiness with relationships, with attention, with sports, with money, with popularity, with substances, with distractions. You know, I feel that part of how we feel emptiness with sports. This year, I really hit the ground hard working for tennis. And I felt like at some point I focused on tennis more than God. You know, I was out there every single day. Saturdays, out there for 4 or 5 hours. Just hitting. But I didn't give God every single day 4 or 5 hours reading the Bible. But nothing temporary can permanently satisfy your soul. Ecclesiastes 3:11 says he has put eternity into the human heart. There is a reason people always feel like something's missing without God. Because we were created for something greater than this world. Isaiah 55:2 puts it in like this. Why do you spend money on what is not bread, and your wages on what does not satisfy? That's the question. Why keep chasing rocks? It's kind of like drinking salt water when you're thirsty. It might feel like it helps for a second, but it actually makes it worse. That's what sin does too. Sin promises comfort, promises happiness, promises freedom, but eventually it leaves people emptier than before. John 10:10 says, I have come so that they may live life and have it in abundance. That's the difference between what the world offers and what God offers. The world takes from you. God gives life. The world says you need everybody to notice. God says, I already know you. The world says you'll never be enough. God says you are fearfully and wonderfully made. Jeremiah 17:9 says, the heart is...
This audio was created with async.com.
Jeremiah 17:9 says, the heart is more deceitful than anything else. If you follow feelings alone, you'll always end up chasing something temporary, guys. That is a problem. If we always end up chasing temporary stuff, we're going to settle for rocks and not go for unicorns. One of the hardest things about following God is waiting on what He has planned. It's waiting on the things that are in the future. When something happens to us bad, we just want to quit. But the best things take time. Think about Joseph in the Bible. Joseph had dreams from God, but before those dreams ever happened, he went through betrayal, loneliness, slavery, and prison. God was building Joseph long before God elevated Joseph. And I think a lot of us forget that. We want the promise without the process. We want the blessings without growth. But sometimes God has to teach us to let go of lesser things before we can receive better things. Romans 12:2 says, "Do not be conformed to this age, but be transformed by the renewing of your mind." And then Psalms 37:4 says, "Take delight in the Lord, and He will give you the desires of your heart." Not because He gives you everything you want, because He changes what you want. And once you experience the kind of love God gives you, the rocks of the world stop looking as valuable. Because you realize God offers something greater. Peace that lasts, purpose that matters, joy that deeper than happiness, identity rooted in Him instead of public opinion. You know, Romans 5:8 says, "While we were still sinners, Christ died for us." Christ went on that cross for sinners of the world. Christ went on that cross because He loved us so much. And He did not want us to never to be, He wanted us to have forever power. He wanted our sins to be forgiven. Listen to that, Romans 5:8 again. While we were sinners, Christ died for us. While we were cursing God, while we were cursing Jesus, He died for us. He got on that cross and He died for the remission of our sin because He loved us so much. Because that unicorn we deserve the unicorn. We settle for the rocks, but we need to deserve the unicorn. So this week, ask yourself, what rocks have I been settling for? And I am trading something eternal for something temporary. Because God never created you just to survive this world. He created you to walk with Him through it. Thank y'all for listening today. I know I got heated there at the last, but that's a thing that I look at people today that are out there cursing God and that won't believe in God. And I tell them, I said, God died for us. Christ died for us while we were still sinning, while we were still cursing Him. Do y'all understand this? And it's a hard verse for me. Because I see people day in and day out that just don't believe. And I try to do all in my power to help them see who that is. So don't settle for rocks when God offers far greater.
This audio was created with async.com.